Welcome, everyone, to another edition of C2C. Today's chief, Mr. Brian Day from Fuze. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks again for having me today. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, as always.
You know, it's actually exciting to have you here again. We talked before, but really the first video we did of a chief executive and the reaction to COVID was you, and you were well ahead of the game, shutting down the office, responding to employees, doing all of these things. What I'd like to do today is revisit, actually jump forward to what you're seeing. You were so good at prognosticating in the past and responding to what we're seeing. We're looking forward to your insights as to what you're seeing today that maybe partners don't have visibility to, and to what you see coming in the future. So first question for you is, how do you see this impacting really network expansion and engaging with other businesses?
Well, so first of all, thanks for not talking about COVID other than mentioning it once, because I'm sure, like me, you got so tired of talking about
That's
it,
right.
and it just felt like it dominated our conversations for months. But I'm kind of beyond it at this point in time, and I'm kind of like, okay, you know, it is what it is. Not to use the overused phrase, it is what it is, but it is what it is, right? It's reality. We've got to deal with it. Let's move forward. So we've kind of talked about it as a company and said, okay, what's different? What can we do differently to be effective as we move forward into the next chapter of all this? So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm kind of an optimist on this right now. You know, I looked at this surge in cases over the summer, and everyone's saying, oh, it's going to be a disaster. But you know what? Things didn't really get that bad this summer. So there's a big part of me that's saying, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if by who knows, early 21, middle of 21, we're kind of back to semi-normal, pre-March of 2020. I'd sure like to get there. I mean, I enjoy my house here, but boy, I'm anxious to get back into the office. But back to your question, it's certainly for the next 6 months, because I kind of feel like we're already in 2021. I'm kind of almost there mentally. I know we got to finish Q3 and get into Q4, but it almost feels like we got a 16 or 17 month year coming ahead of us. So how are we going to plan for that? Well, we're just continuing to think of ways of working with customers in a remote first environment. How do you set up meetings? How do you have casual conversations? That's kind of the toughest thing. So the way we've gone about it is just to be aggressive. Get out there, talk to people. Make sure that you allocate time every single day to just reach out and start talking to people. Because if you don't, it doesn't happen naturally like it used to. And you've got to really work extra hard to do that. It's easy to just sit back and wait for people to call you or reach out to you, but it doesn't always happen. So I think the spoils go to the person who's most aggressive. And the way to be aggressive is, work your contacts, keep talking to people, stay in front of people. And I think if you do that, good things will happen. As far as, where we're all going to go at this point in time, like I said, we're in a major metropolitan district. Our office is in downtown Boston, so we're a little reopen, but I'm cautiously optimistic that by early next year we'll be getting back into the office and things will start to feel a little bit more normal again.
Great. So tell us, a lot of partners are working with customers just like your business, wondering how they're dealing with the current situation, and of course, what new angles they can use to sell into those customers. But a part of that is understanding what they're dealing with. So tell me, anything special you're doing for your employees at home, anything different?
Yeah, we've gone out of our way to try to make it as comfortable as possible for our employees. It's funny. I've got a friend who's a venture capitalist around here, and he came down to visit me probably about 2 months ago, and he talked to me about a bunch of his CEOs in his portfolio. He said they're all really nervous because they talk to people, but they don't really talk to people. And you kind of miss walking around the office and you're talking about the ball game last night or the basketball game or the hockey game, those kinds of things. So he goes, you never really have your fingers on the pulse, or your finger on the pulse of how your employees are feeling. And it's true, I kind of felt the same way. I mean, I try to talk to 5 or 6 Fusers every single day that I don't have a reason to talk to. But if I at that pace, it's going to take me forever to get to all of our employees. So some of the things that we've done is we've put in place some programs. Things like there's something called Fuze Connect. We have like yoga classes that happen, baking clubs, trivia. We have every other Thursday we have a trivia contest. The same guy runs it for us. He's awesome at it, by the way. I mean, I think he missed his calling. But we've done a lot of those kinds of things: cooking classes, parent support groups. Literally every single day, there's something you can join on inside Fuze, and it's been a great way to talk to people that you wouldn't otherwise talk to. Because I think the big thing that's missing again is the casual conversations that you used to have in the office. So between that, we try to have at least twice a week. We have what we call an Ask Me Anything session, and a member of the Fuze team will host it. And there'll be a topic of conversation. Like last week I think we had the exciting concept of GDPR, the European privacy laws. But it was it quickly devolved into just kind of a free for all Ask Me Anything, which is fine, right? But once again, it gets conversations going that wouldn't otherwise happen. So we've kind of decided we've got to work extra hard to make sure that kind of stuff continues to happen and we communicate.
That's great. So the flip side of not being in the office and getting that added productivity is you've got to really force or create some structure around those casual conversations.
You really do, because they don't happen. They just don't happen unless you force them, unless you really make them happen. And then the problem is as you can imagine, it can't be forced, right? So you've got to force it, but it can't be forced. So you're kind of caught in the middle there. But I think people really appreciate the fact that I'll reach out to them and say, hey, look, you know what? I'm not calling you to have a serious conversation. I'm calling you to say hello.
Yeah.
And I'm not singling anybody out. We just have to do these things. And by the way, after 20 minutes of talking to people, they're like, hey, I'm glad you did that, because you're right. I mean, I talk to the same 3 or 4 people every single day, and it's as somebody said to me a couple weeks ago, every day is Wednesday. Right? Well, this kind of changes that a little bit if you try to do things like that. But I'll tell you, Adam, it's hard work. It really is hard work, and it's something I don't think any of us really, the first month and a half or 2 months, this was kind of a little bit exhilarating. It's like, hey, this is a new world. And then all of a sudden it got to be a real drag. So these are some of the strategies we've come up with to try to get through it.
I think they're great. So speaking of innovations, you've innovated on the casual conversations front, on the employee engagement. Let's talk about product innovation. What do you have planned for the rest of 2020 on the roadmap?
Yeah, so a couple of areas we've invested in early in 2020 and will continue to invest in going forward is integration with third parties. So as we continue to move up market and sell into bigger and bigger enterprises, it's really apparent to us that, hey, look, they've made certain technology decisions and they're going to stick with those. Like, I'd say a good percentage of our customers use Slack, for example. So we rolled out our Slack integration late last year, beginning of this year. A large number of our customers use Microsoft Teams for collaboration. So we've got click to call and direct routing integrations with Microsoft Teams, depending on what kind of licenses the customers have. We have found that a number of our larger enterprise customers really appreciate those features. And if you had asked me 2 years ago if that made sense, I think there was probably a feeling that, well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Maybe we should be pushing for the whole estate inside some of these enterprises. And if they're going to go with if they're going to use Teams, that we don't really want them because we want them using our platform. I think we've come to the conclusion that that's probably not the right strategy, and the strategy that we followed is the right one, which is, you've got to be able to integrate because people are going to use different kinds of software. So that's where a lot of our innovation has been coming from this year. And then, updates to our marketplace ecosystem is the other place that we've been focusing on. Constantly enhancing our API so other people can work with us. Enhancing our contact center product, which has been fairly well received in the first half of this year, which is something that's pretty exciting for us as well. So, the innovation guys haven't missed a beat. It's been kind of fun to watch. I think they've taken that extra hour a day they have that they're not commuting and they've poured it into the product.
Nice. Great to use that extra time to pour in the product. Well, and we're seeing the same thing in terms of larger organizations just tend to have disparate systems they're trying to plug into, whether they acquired some other company that's using a different platform, they haven't fully integrated it, or there's just some reason they've got something else. The plug and play ability is huge. So great to see you guys continuing to head down that road. Next question I've got for you is, tell us how the channel strategy plays into this.
Channel continues to be a real important part of our future, and it's even more so. I think a lot of people are aware we modified our go-to-market approach late last year. We moved away from selling into the SMB space, focusing on enterprise. It's impossible with the size of the sales force that we have for us to be successful going direct. And I've said to people before, and I'll say it again. There's really, I can't think of a successful enterprise software company that's been direct. I just don't think it can work. So channel has got to be a big part of the equation. We've expanded the channel team inside Fuze in 2020. We've added some key people, not just on the relationship side, but also on the channel, on the product side, the go-to-market side, talking to channel partners who are come at it from a technology standpoint. It's something we're going to continue to focus on as we move forward, because I think it's a real important part of our future.
Great. Well, and partners always love to hear that straight from the top, that the role the channel plays. Tell me any other.
I'll tell you the one thing that I missed though is the face-to-face engagements we have with channel partners, because that was a big part of my first 2.5 years at the company before what happened here with COVID. But I think we've all done a good job of going virtual with that stuff, but there's no substitute for the face-to-face engagement, and that's something I'm looking forward to getting more involved with.
No question.
Again,
we are as well. In fact, we find two camps. There are some that are dying for engagement. There are some that are just hunkered down right now, and we look forward to hopefully mid next year when just everyone's out again and engaging face-to-face.
Yeah, I think that's right, and it's the hunkered down people that it kind of forces everybody to be hunkered down, because if nobody wants to receive you as a visitor, then there's no sense going.
Right. Yeah. True. Tell me any other business updates we should be aware of.
One of the things we're thinking of, and we quite regularly is how do we accelerate the growth in the enterprise space. So that's where a lot of our efforts and our thoughts have been focused in the past few months. Again, as we move up market and start to sell into bigger and bigger enterprises, one of the things that we've seen is that market's really started to take off. Our pipeline, as an example, doubled between the first half of the year and the second half of the year. Now we're waiting to see, okay, is that going to turn into bookings velocity, or these bigger enterprise CIOs just saying, okay, I now realize that UCaaS is the future for me. On-prem's not going to work in the long run, so I've got to make that change. And something that I was going to do in 2022, maybe I'm going to do now in 2021, and hopefully the first half of 2021. So I think one of the big focuses for us is how do we get our fair share of that. And part of that is creating better brand awareness, which is something that, as a company, quite candidly, we've struggled with a little bit. I mean, we're a privately held company. We're probably the only privately held UCaaS company selling into enterprise. So we lose every deal we don't see, and unfortunately that's still too many. So between working really hard with our channel partners, working harder and smarter on brand awareness campaigns, those are the places that we're focusing a lot on the last few months of 2020 and into 2021.
Well, it's certainly consistent from when we spoke before. You made a decisive move with regard to going away from SMB and making sure that you had a clear target on enterprise. So how do you define that so partners know that, hey, Fuze is a perfect spot for customers that look like this? Yeah,
so great question. And I'd say if you had to pin me down on the answer, I'd say a typical customer today that we're closing is probably 500 employees and up, and tends to have multiple locations. So we do a really good job. One of the things we've talked about is we have a segment of our customer base that represents today 50% of our revenue that we classify as large enterprise, and it's essentially 1,000 seat deals and up. And the typical large enterprise customer for Fuze has 105 locations. So we do a really good job, and hats off to our professional services team, because those are hard deployments. I like to say that an enterprise deployment is an order of magnitude more complicated than an SMB deployment. And that tends to be where we really do well. So, multinational companies, companies that have multiple locations, that have complex deployments. We do really well there, and those are the types of deals that we get excited about. As Tom Siegel, who runs sales for me, says, if we get into a proof of concept situation, we typically win. So, for us, it's getting our technology in front of the economic buyers is a key part of our success.
Got it. Now, tell me, within your existing customer base, what kind of trends are you seeing?
It really depends on what segment you're looking at. I mean, we've got customers in healthcare, and depending on what part of the healthcare segment they're in, they're either doing really well or they're not. We've got customers in retail, and they're by and large not doing that well right now. So we're working with them. We're trying to be a good supplier where we can, and helping them through what's a tough situation. Working out deferred payment arrangements where we need to, doing things like that. Manufacturing customers seem to be doing reasonably well. Financial services customers are doing reasonably well. So I would say the tailwinds are probably outpacing the headwinds right now, which is certainly a good thing. But we're also being mindful of what the future is going to bring. I mean, there's a lot of economic uncertainty right now. So we're seeing within our customer base, those customers that laid off employees are slow to bring those employees back until they're comfortable that things are going to be a little more stable going forward.
Got it. Now, within the customer base, are you seeing any sort of product expansion of they happen to be using more of these features than they were in the past, or they're engaging contact center or something different?
Yeah, they absolutely are, and I think again they've moved from kind of the survival mode back in the March, April, May timeframe to, okay, you know what, I'm not just surviving, I've got to prosper, because as optimistic as I am that we'll get back into the office in the next few months, I think we have to plan for the fact that maybe we won't. So I think a lot of CIOs are saying, okay, I can't sit around and just tread water. I've got to figure out a way to kind of continue to push the envelope. So I have to avail myself of technologies that allow my employees to continue to be productive in the work from home scenario. So we are seeing a lot of take up on. It's not so much things like traditional desk phones and things like that, but it's collaboration platforms. It's remote contact center workers. It's all types of things like that that CIOs are really starting to push pretty hard on right now.
Great. Good. All right. So in the field, as you're seeing deals come in, or that pipeline that continues to grow, you're talking about, you mentioned that if you can get in front of a customer, you're typically winning. Talk a little bit more about that. Why are you displacing your competition?
I think the reason for that is that our technology is really good. We're not the right fit for absolutely everybody, and if we're not, we'll disqualify ourselves fairly quickly. But if there's a deal that we think is a good deal for us, we'll go really hard at it. Like I said, our technology was built from the ground up to be enterprise grade. And we win based on that. We've got a great security story. We've got a really good security team that takes that very seriously. Not that any of our peers don't, but I think we do a really good job from a security standpoint of making sure we're up to speed with everything we can be doing and tightening up the platform as best we can from that perspective. And then again, as I talked about earlier, the whole professional services organization does a really good job of I would call it white glove treatment with a customer. So if a customer is looking for, I don't want to just sign a contract and have to worry about the deployment. I want somebody to do the whole thing for me. We do a really good job at doing that because in most cases, as you know, CIOs of these companies maybe make this decision once or twice in their career. This isn't something they do every 3 years. So rolling out a new voice platform is not something in many cases they've done ever before. So it's one of the reasons we've invested pretty heavily in our professional services organization to make sure that we can do that for them and do it effectively. Got
it. All right, so let's turn the tables a little bit and let's talk about you as an agent and some advice for agents. If you were an agent, you're selling Fuze, you're selling some of the competition, maybe occasionally. What would some of your advice be for these partners, whether they're a new partner or someone who's been in the game for years? What would you advise?
I would tell them stop selling the competition. No, in all seriousness, what I would say is I think if you're going to be an effective agent, the thing that I would focus most of my energies on is making sure I understood as much about the technology as I possibly could. And you've got to have that gives you a leg up over the competition. Really, okay, understand what the customer wants, understand what the various vendors can offer from a technology and a services standpoint, and do the best match you can. It's not always, what deal makes the most sense economically right up front. I think over the long run, I mean, if you choose the right vendor and match the right vendor with the right customer, they're going to be happy and you'll get a lot of repeat business from them. So there's really no substitute for doing your homework.
That's actually a good point. I think some of our veteran partners understand that. Some of the more successful ones know that your money is made over 10 years, not with an extra point. And a customer is going to stick around for 10 years if you've got the right solution for them.
And by the way, I tell that to my own sales force too. They're like, well, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. And I said, look, you know what? The smart agents will choose the right technology. You're not going to lose a deal over one or two little basis points. At the end of the day, the right technology is going to make the customer happy, and that agent is going to make more money than they would otherwise. And nobody really wants a deal to churn out in 2 or 3 years, right? I hear people say, and inexperienced sales guys will tell me, well, you know what? They're going to churn the deal every 2 years so they can make another commission. I'm like, no, they're not. Do you think the end user customer is going to continue to go back to that same agent if the technology doesn't work?
That's right.
They're going to say, oh, yeah, okay, you give me 3 bad vendors, you've made a nice spiff every single time, I'm going to go back to you again? That's not how it works.
Well, and it's interesting you point that out because I don't think a lot of executives understand that. I think they do suffer from the fear of, this partner's going to get this big upfront bonus, and then they're going to move and churn the customer again, where the partner trades on their reputation. And their reputation for implementing a bad solution is done, which means they can't sell anything to that customer again. And so it's everything.
Which, by the way, goes back to what I was saying earlier, Adam, which is, at the end of the day, we won't go into a situation where we're not going to be successful. Because, first of all, I don't want to not be successful. Secondly, it makes you or whoever our partner is in that deal look bad too. No partner or no agent wants to have a bad deal, right? Nobody wants to be involved in a situation where, geez, I brought Fuze in, it wasn't a good fit. Now I'm kind of playing defense here. I don't like that. No, we won't get into that situation for a bunch of reasons, but one of which is we want to be able to protect the agent from something like that as well.
Yeah, that's a great long-term outlook and a great way to build the channel by having them always have a good experience. If I just connect the dots of what you're saying, first of all, you said, look, what we're trying to do is get in front of more enterprises because they will see the goodness of the technology, they'll understand it was built for them, and then we go to partners, and the advice for partners is understand the technology, which looks like very closely related to the first. Which is, if you understand the technology, you're going to put Fuze where Fuze belongs and put us in the right situations.
Yeah, and if you look at our sales process, it does tend to be front end loaded. We want to learn as much as we can. I would say it's not transactional, and in some cases that probably hurts us a little bit. We're not in there. We're not going to go in and have a quick win and be done with it. That's typically not how it works in the enterprise. Most enterprises are very methodical. They're thoughtful. They want to understand how it works, and that's how we operate too. We want to understand what the solution is, because the worst thing we can do is get all the way to the finish line, get a contract in place, and then have there be a gotcha either at the day before the deal closes or even afterwards. Right? Nobody wants to find out afterwards. Oh yeah, you need this, this, and this for this to be successful. We didn't tell you about that. That's the wrong way to start off a relationship. So, we tend to come at it from a very consultative standpoint, and my suspicion is that most enterprises really appreciate that. And if they don't, they're probably sorry they didn't appreciate it in the first place.
That's right. And like you said, partners appreciate that as well. So, great follow-up to our earlier conversation from a few months ago, and great insight into not just your focus on enterprise, but your real savvy, outlook on the channel and long-term value for partner relationships. That's good stuff. Anything we're missing, Brian? Anything you want to add before we sign off?
I will point out to you, I love your new studio.
Oh, thank you very much. You're not going to tell people.
You're not going to throw that out there. I've got something I need to emulate now. That's your studio is a little better than my studio. So hopefully next time we have this, I'll be looking a little better from a background.
Well, and from our conversation, you can just convert an old storage closet into a studio like we did.
Thanks as always for the time, Adam. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for the partnership, Brian, and thank you for the time. Take care.
All right, take care.
Bye, everyone.